For generations of Canadians, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II has been the constant in a world filled with change. And even at 96 years of age, many of us felt like she would always be there. After all, she had been part of so much of our history. She was our queen. So it feels almost unreal to declare, God save the King. Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II visited Canada more often than any other country on earth. I remember with great clarity Her Majesty's visit to Stratford in 1997 to view a scene from The Taming of the Shrew at the Stratford Festival. I remember watching her helicopter land in the aptly named Lower Queen's Park, then running to Upper Queen's Park and standing on a lawn chair 6 or 7 rows back to catch a glimpse of Her Majesty during her walkabout. Many in our community also remember her previous visit to Stratford in 1959 with Prince Philip for a performance of Shakespeare's As You Like It. When our country celebrated great milestones, she was here. The opening of the St. Lawrence Seaway, Expo 67, the Montreal Olympics, the patriation of the Constitution, the centennials of the entry into Confederation of British Columbia, and 34 years later for that of Alberta and Saskatchewan. And in 1964, she was here for the 100th anniversary of the Charlottetown and Quebec conferences. In an address at the opening of the Confederation Centre, Her Majesty the Queen reflected on her beloved Canada. She said, "We know the splendor of her achievements in peace and in the dark years of war, the esteem in which she is held in the great councils of the world, the contributions to the enrichment of the Commonwealth, the generosity and sense of responsibility to the newly developing countries, and the willingness to assume the gravest of international responsibilities. All these and much else have grown out of this great act of political statesmanship and have made Canada what she is today." We, as members of this House, members of the House of Commons, represent one of 2 houses of Parliament, but we also represent one of 3 parts of Parliament: the House of Commons, the Senate, and the Crown. Indeed, the first time that these 3 parts of Parliament formally convened was in 1957 for the opening of the 23rd Parliament. In the speech from the throne, the first to be delivered by the monarch, the Queen stated, "I greet you as your Queen. Together we constitute the Parliament of Canada. For the first time, the representatives of the people of Canada and their sovereign are here assembled on the occasion of the opening of Parliament. This is, for all of us, a moment to remember. Parliamentary government has been fashioned by the wisdom of many centuries. Its justice, authority, and dignity are cherished by men of goodwill." End quote. I share that quotation from 1957 because it reflects the sincerity with which Her Majesty conducted her constitutional obligations. In Walter Bagehot's The English Constitution, he ably divides the institutions of government into 2 parts: the dignified and efficient parts. The dignified are those which excite and preserve the reverence of the population, and the efficient parts are those by which it, in fact, works and rules. The dignified parts are the Crown. The efficient parts are the government. Now, I'm sure there have been times over the decades that Her Majesty may have wondered how efficient some of her ministers may have been. But as the ever-dignified sovereign, she respected her constitutional role. And while she was always dignified, it did not stop her from surprising us, like her famous entry at the London Olympics with 007, or the ever so poignant tea with Paddington Bear during the Platinum Jubilee celebrations earlier this year. 75 years ago, on her 21st birthday, Princess Elizabeth pledged that her whole life would be devoted to service. To her final days, she fulfilled that pledge of service. Mr. Speaker, to paraphrase Shakespeare, we shall not look upon her like again. Thank you.